A shout out to patron Jay Fogg. He was the one that gave me this film to review, and you too can hear your name and see your name in an upcoming video. All you have to do is send me a film to review, and the mail address is in the description below, but I will put it right up here so you can go ahead and take a look at it. That is P.O. Box 134, Windermere, and that's Florida, if you didn't know what FL was, and 34786. Now, hit the button. Let's get started. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Andrew here, the horror host of Generations X, Y, and Z inside Davis Manor with a review of the 2015 horror anthology that is called Southbound. And before I begin, a big old shout out to the patrons of the channel. These fine individuals have joined me on an awesome journey of creating some very cool things like the free video that you are watching right now. You too can be part of the show by clicking the link above or the links in the description box or at the end of the video, all while earning some swag and more importantly have a say in the direction of the channel and future projects. Now let's get into the horror anthology of five interlocking tales of weary travelers on an unnamed highway trying to outrun their deepest, darkest nightmares while hiding their own personal secrets. And to treat this movie with as much respect as I can, I'm going to go ahead and review each segment and give a final rating at the end. So the first tale is called The Way Out, which is written by Matt Bettinelli Oakland and directed by Radio Silence. Radio Silence? There can't be a person named Radio Silence. And with further investigation, I find out that there isn't a person named Radio Silence. Radio Silence actually is a company that was formed by Matt Bettinelli Open. What a rough name. Chad Villela and Tyler Gillette. Can we get like a Joe Smith in here? So getting back to the first story, the tale is about two guys, Mitch and Jack, played by Villela and Open respectively. And this story has a second part, and that's the last story in the movie, and serves overall as bookends in the film. Mitch and Jack are running from these floating creatures that are demonic forms of the Grim Reapers. You figure out right away that these guys aren't going to go anywhere due to the fact that they keep on coming back to the same gas station whenever they leave. Eventually, this segment ends in a hotel room, and we are left with a feeling that this is going to be an endless loop. And speaking of endless loops, let me pause for self-promotion. You see, the link above there, that's for Happy Deathday, which is another horror movie that kind of has an endless loop vibe going on there. It's worth taking a look at. I mean, the film and my review, of course. But let me get back in here. The story I thought was okay. It was a decent opener film of the film, and I'm talking about the Southbound film now. I'm talking about the first tale. The film is marketed, I mean, at least it implies, that the characters are in hell. I didn't get that vibe. I mean, it kind of felt like all the characters were in purgatory, but I'll get more onto that later. Let's go ahead and get to the next segment. The second segment is called Siren, and it's written by Susan Burke and Roxanne Benjamin, directed also by Roxanne Benjamin. The story basically revolves around a group of young females who happen to be staying at the hotel that the first segment left off in, and they are in a band that is called the White Tights. Reminds me of a prison team I was in called the Tighty Whities. Yeah, so this segment is the segment that totally derails the movie for me. I mean, completely. I mean, this segment is about a group of girls that get picked up after the car breaks down, then tried to be turned into some Stepford Wives characters for a cult of some sort. I mean, all while eating burnt meatloaf and vomiting black goo. I just don't get it. It's weird. I feel like something was cut from the segment, like something was omitted from the story. I just felt lost on this one. The only thing that I really enjoyed about this segment at all was the fact that it leads to what my feeling is the best segment overall in the movie. And that would be the third segment of the film called The Accident, which was written and directed by David Bruckner and pretty much stars one character named Lucas, played by Mather Zickel. I don't want to say much about this segment really because I enjoyed it a lot. The story, the direction, the acting, all of this stuff is on point. Almost every scene is a really intense scene. And it's not because all the shots are up close or anything. There are far away shots and stuff. But there was a lot of drama, I guess you could say. It was intense. And I wasn't quite exactly sure why. But then I had a moment of reflection after watching this movie. And I realized I knew why. That is, the character, Lucas, in this segment, is the only character in the movie that you root for. At all. Possibly Danny that's in the next segment. So I'll explain that. Let's go to the next segment. This one is called Jailbreak, and it's written by Dallas Hallam and Patrick Horvath, and also directed by Patrick Horvath. This tale stars Danny, played by David Yao, trying to rescue his sister Jessie, played by Tipper Newton. Trying to rescue her, I guess, from the film, I don't know. But actually her response on the rescue attempt is that she is living in the town by her own choice. I don't get that. That leads me to one beef, really, that I have in this segment. And that is, we are under the impression that this town is hell. All of it. All this is taking place in hell. The gas station. It's cleverly called Freezing Over. So if the sister is in hell, and she wants to be there, which is weird, how did Danny get there? We don't understand that. I mean, he seems like a good guy trying to rescue his sister. And while driving her away from this place, he stops the car for more exposition. And while exchanging dialogue, he's grabbed by, I guess, demons? Those weren't demons. Those were the guys on the tighty-whitey prison team. Anyways, let's just finish this movie up. The last segment is called The Way In, and you think at first that this was a story about a family on vacation, but then you realize this is just the backstory from the characters of the first segment. And what could have been perfect time to make us sympathize for the characters of the first segment, Mitch and Jack, in their plight, in fact, does the complete opposite. I mean, I might have cared about them, but I really couldn't care less. I mean, I was intrigued about the characters after the first segment. Like, ooh, that was kind of interesting. But after the second part, which is the fifth segment, I didn't care at all about them anymore. And I think I can really wrap up this movie altogether by saying this. The movie has its ups and downs. As most anthologies have, you're going to have, ooh, that was a really good segment, and that one wasn't so good. The third segment, by far, is the gem of the film. I probably would rather just watch an entire movie about the third segment. The fourth segment, it was a good story, but there was no closure, really. So, And the bookends, the first and the fifth, had promise in the first part, second part, confusing mess. So, and speaking of confusing mess, the second segment, that was actually a real confusing mess. The acting was passable overall. Some of the actors shined, some of the other actors, meh. The stories were varied and the acting was varied. So, this is what happens when you have different production crews, different directors, all that stuff. And the production value is okay. The CGI, massive distraction. But the practical effects, the special effects makeup, that stuff, on point. It was great. I really enjoyed that. But the CG was a distraction. And I think that the movie had an underlining tale, okay, where we all make choices. And we all have ramifications of those choices. Some of the characters made some really bad choices. There was a very few that made good choices. And in between the segments, you have a DJ that is just speaking over the radio. And the ending was almost verbatim than the beginning. He basically has the same script that he says at the end of the movie that he said in the beginning of the movie, except it's slightly altered. And that slight alteration, to me, makes me think that maybe the characters are all on repeat until they get their choices right, and then they get to be freed, which sends me back to, I think it's more like a purgatory than hell. I think that's also one of the reasons why segment 3 ends differently than the other ones as well, is because you see different choices. Not everybody's going and making the same choice throughout the whole movie. Otherwise, it probably would have gotten boring and it would have been too repetitive. But either way, if you enjoy horror anthologies, go ahead and check the movie out, because my final verdict on this film is that you should rent it. So do you agree with me or disagree with me? Go ahead, leave a comment down below, and remember, like, share, subscribe, plus hit that bell icon so you get notified the moment I upload, and I will see you in the next